You finally leave a toxic situation or establish a stable routine, but instead of relief, you feel a sudden, suffocating panic. This thread captures infectious. Someone makes a positive move and ends up panicking in a bathtub, trying to get back to hell. Letting go of the survival version of yourself feels like a threat. The transition registers as an existential crisis. This helps explain a recurring pattern in trauma recovery, the drive to sabotage safe environments and loving relationships to restore a familiar baseline of misery. Why does the mind gravitate toward the pain it knows, rather than the safety it has finally earned? Resolving this question requires looking past the idea that the brain is wired primarily to maximize happiness. The standard model of behavior relies on reward maximization, seeking positive outcomes and avoiding pain through a cost-benefit analysis. If we were purely reward-seeking engines, self-sabotage wouldn't exist. We would never choose a path back to suffering. The free energy principle provides a different lens. The brain functions primarily as a prediction engine. This model tracks the mathematical gap between what the brain predicts and the sensory data it receives. That gap is variational free energy, or surprise. Survival depends on minimizing surprise. The nervous system works continuously to close the gap between predictions and reality. In this framework, the brain optimizes for what is mathematically familiar and predictable, regardless of whether that environment is healthy. To maintain these predictions, the brain constructs a generative model. It makes top-down guesses about the causes of sensory data before that data even arrives. When sensory reality contradicts a top-down guess, it generates a prediction error. Think of this as a biological alarm bell. Conflicts are resolved through precision weighting. High-precision signals dominate perception, while low-precision signals are ignored. A traumatic event represents an extreme prediction error occurring under high-stakes survival conditions. To survive, the brain installs a threat prior, assigning it massive precision weight, ensuring it becomes the dominant filter for all future information. When a traumatized person suddenly experiences genuine safety or love, they are faced with data that violates this high-precision model. Because the threat model is so heavily weighted, safety signals generate a massive spike in free energy. The system reads this spike as a catastrophic failure of its survival model. Recovery, in early stages, is computed as existential terror. Prediction also drives behavior. Through active inference, we act upon the world specifically to make our predictions come true. Behavior is governed by minimizing expected free energy, splitting into pragmatic and epistemic paths. Pragmatic value is goal-seeking behavior, navigating known environments to fulfill biological needs and avoid immediate danger. Epistemic value is information-seeking behavior. This is curiosity, stepping into the unknown to gather new data and update your model of the world. Trauma breaks this balance. When a threat prior is hyper-precise, the predicted risk of exploring the unknown appears fatal. Curiosity collapses. The agent is left in a purely defensive posture. To keep free energy low, the person may actively sample the world for danger, intentionally starting fights or fleeing safety, just to confirm the original threat model. This return to the hell of the familiar follows a specific logic. The system is executing an active inference policy to eliminate surprise. Logical knowledge, knowing you are safe in the present, rarely breaks this cycle on its own. Because the threat prior is embedded in autonomic survival circuits, cognitive logic often arrives with too low a precision weight to force a systemic update. Recovery requires precision modulation, creating somatic or relational conditions where the weight of the old survival model can be gradually lowered. Only then can sustained, high-precision counter-evidence begin to overwrite the old model. Because this process requires dismantling a survival model, the very early stages of real change are inherently destabilizing. Healing requires tolerating the free energy cost of the unfamiliar good until it can be relearned as the new predictable baseline. This mathematical drive to defend familiar models extends beyond the individual, applying to our largest human institutions. The prison industrial complex functions much like a hyper-precise nervous system, an apparatus optimized for its own stability. Institutions, like organisms, seek homeostatic stability. In this carceral machine, stability is defined by the steady throughput of bail, court fees, and prison labor. This doesn't require a conscious conspiracy. The incentive gradient naturally minimizes local costs by reproducing the population it feeds on. From the perspective of the machine's accounting, recidivism serves as the predictable feedstock required to keep the institution's prediction errors low. Both the individual nervous system and the carceral state optimize for predictable, load-bearing harm over the uncertainty of actual development. We should also look at the intellectual frameworks we use to diagnose these problems. Academic theories, including the one we've explored today, are themselves high-precision priors. A framework can easily become a closed loop, where every new piece of information is consumed purely as pump formation data for the existing theory. This analysis itself risks becoming a specimen of the loop it describes, a cycle of intellectual elaboration that produces growth without development. Trying to control these loops from the inside often just spends down our energy, while the attractor inevitably wins. We find ourselves repeating the same patterns. The drive to establish the devil we know persists across our biological and social structures. Our true agency lies in recognizing when a beautiful framework is simply enjoying being fed.